Right, year 7, so we are going to have a look now at how to create this bear fur texture. So there are 3 things that we need to think about before we can begin, and that's what shape are we drawing, what lines are we using, and what tones do we need to create, okay? So if we have a look at the texture of the fur here, we can see that these are sort of teardrop shapes, like curvy triangles. They go to a point at one end and they're much wider at the bottom end. Okay, once we've drawn those teardrop shapes, it's what marks do we need to make in to create this texture, and these are marks that we've used before. If you remember right the way back to the start of year 7, we used flourishes where we pushed our pencil to the page and then we flicked out quickly to make curve fast lines. If you remember, we talked about it was almost like marking a load of maths papers and we were ticking all the answers correct. Once we've figured that out, we then need to look at the tone. So if we look, we've got much lighter tips on the bear fur and then much darker roots on the bear fur as well. Okay, so I'm going to move that out of the way and I'm going to bring my image into the centre for you, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit as well to make it really clear what I'm doing. Okay, so we're going to start off by drawing this pointy ended curvy triangle, which you'll probably identify much more clearly as a teardrop shape. And we're just going to do one to start off with for now. Okay, so now that I've got my teardrop shape, I then need to think about how I'm going to add these texture lines into it, these flourishes that we were talking about. So if you remember, when we did this right at the start of year 7, we had an arrow to identify where our marks were going to come from. This time we're going to have a dot. Okay, so we're not going to start at the tip, which is the pointy end, because bear fur doesn't grow out of the tip, it obviously grows out of the skin. So we're going to start down the bottom here, and then once we've done the bottom, then we are going to come up in these very quick curves. Okay, so I'm going to start here and then I'm going to flick very quickly, just like we did when we were doing our line and mark making. Now the first set ones of these that I'm creating, I'm pushing very hard with my pencil so that these marks are nice and dark, because as we said, the bear fur was darker at the roots and lighter at the tip. Okay, so then once I've made my dark ones, I am then going to take my pencil. I'm going to start on exactly the same point down the bottom there, and I'm going to come up a little bit taller this time because I am releasing the pressure and I'm making sure that these lines that come up are much lighter, so we are creating that tone as well. Okay, now we know that there wasn't just one of these. We saw the picture, there was lots of these layered over together and there was no gaps either. Okay, so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make a lot of these in order to make sure that we're making this matted bear fur type effect, and they each need to be touching. So I'm going to start to draw another one of those teardrop shapes. Now it doesn't matter which direction it goes in, if it's the same size. They can be taller and thinner, they can be wider, shorter and thicker. It doesn't matter. Okay, what matters is that they are that teardrop shape and that you pick the point at the bottom where it's close to the bear skin, and we then do those darker lines again. So we're pushing and flicking, curving out one side, pushing and flicking, curving out the other side with a lot of pressure to make the darker tone at the root. And then as we come up, we're getting lighter to create that effect of the bear's fur. Okay, and once you start to get a couple of them done, you'll start to see the effect of it all merging together at the bottom, making it nice and dark, and then coming out lighter towards the top. Okay, if you do get any little gaps, like I'm going to have one here, that's going to leave a little white gap in that triangle there. What you can do is you can just go and shade those in nice and dark. But remember that once you're working inside those teardrop shapes, you are using the flourishes, starting at the base, nice and dark, and then flicking up nice and light towards the tip. Okay, and then you're going to continue to do the same shapes and try and fill up as much of the box as you can to create that appearance of this matted Bertha texture. Okay, so now it's over to you.